This is the Red Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Tonight is April the 15th, 2023, and this is episode 291 of the Workshop Podcast. Hey, Byron Roberts, how are you? We're getting ever closer to the magical number of 300, which I think is kind of cool. I have it timed out so that if I have it right, the first Thursday that I'm back from Nicole's at Living Free in Tennessee should be episode number 300. Going to have, anyway, we got a bunch of announcements. Nothing that's coming tonight, but a bunch of things in the pipeline. And yeah, we're going to make 300 and just an awesome special episode. So I can't wait, guys. I'm excited. So, hey, Haas, good to have you in here tonight. All right, let's get the announcements out of the way. Well, before that, we're going to jump in. Chris Dixon says, in my best Hitchcock voice, good evening. I can't do Hitchcock. If I hear him, maybe I can, but you know how it is. So anyway, we're going to go in. We got a bunch of stuff tonight. The main thrust of tonight's show is 10 more side hustles you can do to start making money right now. Before that, we're going to cover this week in the workshop. We're also going to, I'm going to tell you what I'm drinking tonight, Byron. I got that here in just a sec. I was going to tell you and I forgot. Been drinking too much already, but yeah, no. And then we're going to go into some Stranger Than Fiction, which I'm excited about. A couple of good articles if we have time to hit both tonight. And yeah, we're just going to hang out on a Saturday night. So this evening, this is an old fashioned, I know, big surprise there. I decided to go with the old-fashioned standard. No. And first time I broke this bottle open, but this is just, it's just kind of an entry-level guy, and it's not bad. I tried a little shot of it. It's Old Granddad bottled and or bonded anyway. 100 proof Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And the bitters I'm trying in my old-fashioned tonight. See if I can get that. I'm not going to get that to focus. See if I can turn the light off. There you go. Yeah, you're not going to read it. Anyway, it is Peychaud's Aromatic Cocktail Bitters. Has a bit of a black licorice or anise or however you pronounce that kind of taste to it. I like it. It gives the old fashioned just a little different bite for a change. So I hope everybody's doing well out there. It's been it's been a hell of a busy week, which is not a bad thing at all. But yeah, so let's get a couple announcements out. First off, if any of you guys are using Noster, if you're on social media and you're like, oh, I've heard these guys talk about this ostrich, Noster, who knows what, snort, all kinds of different names. But anyway, if you're on Noster, my public key is in the description tonight. Also, come by the Telegram group and swap out your public key with everybody so we can all find one another. I'm really enjoying it. Once again, my community and friends of mine drug me, kicking and screaming into it. And now that I'm there, I'm loving it. So never a bad thing. It's what I had Brian on the other night to talk about. And yeah, so I've been enjoying it. So far, so good. Also, here's something I don't talk about very often, but a way that you guys can support the workshop that doesn't cost you anything. So when I look at my stats, 2/3 of all my listeners are either on Fountain or on Apple Podcasts. And to be truthful, Apple is the leading platform by quite a bit. We only have one single rating or review over there. So if you're thinking, hey, you know what? I'd love to support the workshop. Can't sign up for Patch of the Month or whatever. I don't care, whatever. Just anyway, if you can take a minute and go and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be great. And if you say, Tim, I don't know how to do it, no worries. Click on the show, not the episode, but the show itself. Scroll all the way to the bottom and you will see 5 empty stars. Make sure you click 5 stars. No, whatever it's worth to you. But leave a review for me. That's all. Appreciate it, guys. And tonight's tool is the Karcher Surface Cleaner. I actually pinned it tonight, but it looks like I massacred the link, so it may not work in the pin. but you'll find it in the description as well. And that is one of those things that you can turn into a side hustle that can make you a lot of money for a $70 investment. But I digress. We'll get into that later. I've used it for almost 3 years now. I looked it up tonight and I was thinking it had gone up a lot in price. And I think it has a bit on the American side. I paid $70 Canadian for it almost 3 years ago. And retail right now is $70 American. So it's gone up a bit, but not as much as some things have, that's for sure. So, what has been going on? Well, first segment for a Saturday evening, I always enjoy these, is This Week in the Workshop. And first thing, was that awesome? If you guys didn't catch it, I know it's not in the audio feed yet, but it is on the live stream feed. And that is the awesome interview I did with John Bush. He is just, what an incredible dude. The title of the episode is going to be something like, From a School Bus to a Private Jet. Now, he hasn't got a private jet yet, spoiler alert, but he has aspirations to get there someday. So in other words, from your worst moment to something you strive for your best moment. And it's a great interview. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to pop up while I'm gone. I have been working my baguettes off to get all my content done before we go. It's been 3 days in a row. So what have I been doing? Pretty much everything. Putting together podcasts that I can put out for you guys, but also recording. I've got 6 podcasts in the pipeline for you for while I'm gone. So you have something to listen to. And recorded 3 review videos today, which will all be up. I'm quite excited about them. Did one on a new DeWalt battery adapter that has more juice coming out of it than the old one that I reviewed about a year ago. I did a booster pack for a vehicle and one on generator maintenance. So keep an eye out for those. They'll be out every Wednesday. And it's nice to be able to go on vacation and not have to worry about putting content together while you're gone. We'll do some live streams, absolutely. And then when I get back, I'll screw around with all the numbers in the podcast and make sure everything gets numbered. But for now, there'll be content there for you guys. So something that I did record, and I hope you guys enjoy this, and I can't wait for the feedback on it. And it'll still be a bit of a surprise, but what I want to share with you is I took some of these old prepping articles that I've been researching, some of the stuff out of the magazines that I've been reading, and I did 1 or 2 articles, depending on the length of them, and I recorded them as a podcast. So I figured what better way than to create some kind of audiobook magazine content on some of these articles that are so old that they're hard to find even on the internet. So look forward to some of that. Something pretty cool we found this week. That was kind of neat. So the girls that work at the daycare, they had to clean out the upstairs storage area. And I've been saying for ages that it's time to haul the doors off that storage area inside. So they finally did. I should have done it, forgot to do it, whatever. So they give me the doors. I went to haul them to the dump. And I look on there, and they have these beautiful little brass hinges that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save those. When I flip them over, they have perfectly preserved price tags on them from the mid-'70s for my local Larson's hardware, before it was a home hardware. That was just exciting. I love those little pieces of the past. I don't know why. They just kind of connect you. So I took one over to Rod and Cheryl. They're the owners of Home Hardware, and they were super excited about it. And they told me kind of what the store used to be when it switched from what it was to Home Hardware, and that they were able to figure out it was somewhere in the mid to late 70s that those price tags come out. And they were these little tiny brass hinges. Today they would probably be, $6 to $10 a pair. They were 45 cents a pair. I thought that was kind of neat. So we got a bunch of things. I know I keep teasing this, but one more thing popped up today. So I'm working on a bunch of really cool things, none of which have been confirmed yet. I would say at least 4 anyway, that I am just stoked to share with you. At least one I'm going to announce at Nicole's workshop, which will be good. There'll be another one be announced on the 300th episode. And actually, probably all the announcements will be coming on the 300th episode. If I have my way, I'll have everything finalized so I can share with you. I'm sorry for being a dick. I just can't let the cat out of the bag in case one of them ends up falling through or whatever. Send out this month's patches on Monday or Tuesday this week. I always love sending out that great big box of orange envelopes. What else did we do? Oh, I picked up some upgrades for my electrical, for my backfeeding for the generator. Those are going to be fun. So keep an eye out for that. But ever since I did it, I realized I made a couple of mistakes with it, and it was time to make some changes for more safety. What I have now, totally fine, as long as you're not stupid about it. But again, it's always good to eliminate any chance of stupidity if you can do it. So I got some twist locks, and now I have, what will it be? A male and female instead of two males on my plugs. So there's that. Water heater, guys. I had quite the experience this week. If you've never changed out a water heater, this was, I don't know, I've done 2 or 3 before. They always go, I don't know. They're never as good as you think, but then when you're done, you're like, well, that wasn't so bad. So ours is a gas water heater. We've been having troubles for too long to actually admit, but probably close to a year where our water's been getting, our hot water window's been getting just a little bit shorter at a time. And I keep saying I'm going to fix it, but I want to make sure that the place is open if the repair doesn't go so I can replace the whole tank. Well, I got pissed off the other day and I said, that's it. So I went down to the local plumbing place, picked up a dip tube because I was 95% sure that it was the dip tube. Because if your dip tube, which goes in, so if you don't know, in a hot water tank, the water comes in, the dip tube goes down to the bottom, and it puts the cold water at the bottom, then it heats up and then circulates. Now, if that breaks off or gets shorter or splits down the middle, all the cold water comes into the top and it just keeps going down, and you never get cycling of the water. So you get a very short, limited time of hot water. So I said, fine, I'm going to switch it out. Well, I got lucky. Every single fitting came off except for the dip tube itself. I could not get that to budge for anything. I was trying to be as careful as I could. And then eventually I collapsed the threads on it. And I was like, well, you knew that was going to happen. So I got my drill out, drilled some holes in the side of the tank so it would drain properly where I wanted it to go in the ground because there's a slope drain right there. Got that done. And it was like 4 o'clock. And I hollered up to Becky. I said, call over to Rod's, the plumbing shop. Let me know if they're still open, if they got a tank for me. I know. I didn't take my own advice. I should have checked ahead of time. But I really didn't want to spend $1,500 on a new tank if I didn't have to. So, well, anyway, I decided to replace it. And I am really glad I did. We took the 40-gallon out, put a 50-gallon in, and we still managed to get one of the older style tanks that don't actually require any power to run. They're self-sufficient. They have, I don't even know exactly how they work, but they have zero power running to them. They have a little igniter in them, and that is it. And once it heats up, it's not convection. I forget what the actual name is, but hey, whatever. So it's hooked up. We got 50 gallons of capacity. We still have the old style that vents right up in the chimney, and it doesn't require power, which means we'll have hot water without a generator, even if the power goes down. And it's got a 6-year warranty, and the thing's built like a brick shithouse, so we should be good. Aurora Rings, good to have you, said, hey, Tim, decided to use the wife's Cricut machine to make stickers to sell at the shop we work at for a little supplemental income. Speaking of side hustles. Friggin' A, man. I love hearing that. That's a great little side hustle. And you got to fill me in on how it starts going, because everybody loves stickers. Yozit keeps busting my balls and saying, Tim, when are you going to start a Sticker of the Month Club? And I'm working on it. Lots of things coming, right? But that one isn't necessarily in the very next round of announcements. But yeah, Aurora, I love hearing that. That's great. I think Becky has a Cricut machine, or she might have sold it, but I never thought to test that out. But that's good, man. Keep it up. I picked up a new DeWalt tool bag. I'm going to set up, you'll see a video on it, but whenever I go to do plumbing, I'm always either hauling a toolbox with me, or I got loose plumbing tools everywhere. So I decided I'm going to put together a specific plumbing and electrical tool bag. So it'll lighten up my regular everyday carry tool bag a little bit, but it'll mean I can carry a second bag with all the specialty plumbing tools in it that I really want to have. So there's that. I'll do a tool bag breakdown when I'm all done, but it was needed for sure. The snow has melted here, guys. It's unreal. Since I had some bank property photos I took on Monday, The front yard of this bank property was full of snow, and now it's not. We have, unless it's right on the north side of a building, and even just a certain angle, the way the sun comes in, it's awesome. I love it. It's warmed up here. It was 14 degrees Celsius today. It's been t-shirt weather. We've been sitting out on the deck. The dogs have been outside like crazy. This is the time of year with the most optimism you're ever going to find. I love it. I love getting outside. I love getting shit done. I'm excited to go to Tennessee, but I can't wait to get back here to get back at working. And that tells you the last thing. So talking about side hustles, you guys know the trailer that we bought as one of our first rentals. It needed some work, a lot of work. However, I have gutted the bathroom. It's coming around really, really well. Here's the deal, guys. It's now rented. Nobody's living in there. It's spoken for. The deposit has been paid for June 1st. So guess how that's going to go. As soon as I get back from Tennessee, every minute I have is going to be in that rental, getting it done in time for them to move in June 1st. We'll actually probably be on the road when they move in. We're going to be in Washington, but I've got somebody hired to do the painting. So lots and lots of things to do. So yes, actually, that's a really good question to ask, Chris. So, okay. Yes. Chris asks, have I considered tankless for my water heater? Yes, absolutely. Hey, Chuck Peoples. I really considered tankless, actually, because we have a good supply of natural gas here. We had them lined up to come and do it last year. They were going to come in, they were going to put it in. They got held up. Then when they came down, they're like, well, we got to move this. We got to put a vent in. We got to do this. So we ended up sending them to the daycare to do some work for us that day. Never got them back here. Now, I do like tankless. There's more that can go wrong with them, maybe. I don't know. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to free up those, that 4 square feet of space in the basement. I wanted to get rid of that big old tank and move it over to, the far side of the house. Anyway, we didn't. This was a combination of a couple things. This was me getting a little pissed off because it was time to fix the hot water tank, and I should have called them ages ago. And then secondly, it was I really, really like having an electric-free hot water tank. I balanced it. Becky and I did talk about this quite a bit before I finally decided to do it. But when it comes down to it, it gives me 50 gallons of water storage in the house, and it gives me hot water without needing to run a generator. So I really like that. So there's that. We probably will go tankless eventually. Maybe even, I don't know. But yeah, I do love this. So from talking to the people at the plumbing shop, it sounds to me that these electric-free natural gas hot water tanks are going to be a thing of the past real soon. They have some sort of, I didn't get all the information. I'll find out some more, but it sounds like they have either an inline fan or something to make sure that the exhaust gets out of the house. Every so often, it's almost like somebody turns on a tanning light in here. I don't know what is going on with my live stream camera, but my face goes from white to red all of a sudden here. So it's not the blood pressure. It's just the weird ring light. So anyway, so yeah, we probably will go tankless at some point. I would love to get that installed at the same time that we have our furnace redone. I'd love to redo my whole basement, but that's a story for another day. But I would love to get the furnace, get a real high efficiency one, move it over to the corner, something that doesn't even require a chimney necessarily, and then a tankless over in the corner. So it'll open up our basement a lot more. We'll see. So since I kind of put the cart before the horse and went with a 50-gallon storage tank, I'm stuck for a while now. I don't regret it at all because we did talk about it and that was where we ended up. But yeah, if we end up spending a ton of time down in Tennessee, 3 to 6 months of the year, we will definitely put in some sort of tankless propane heater there for sure. But yeah, lots and lots on the go. One more thing. I don't know. Hey, Robin Holstein, great to have you. She is working on a bunch of stuff. Always good to have you around. She is a hard worker and pretty incredible lady. Good to have you. So if you missed it, it didn't last very long. We tried topics in Telegram. And if you ask me, Tim, what the hell are topics? Well, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like individual chat rooms that make the hoops you have to jump through in order to talk just a little bit more. Now, they have their place. They're in the self-reliance group right now, and I think they work really well in a place like that. Josh is still trying his in the Liberty Meat group. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe if the group was 1,000 or 2,000 people, maybe it would have worked better. Maybe I didn't give it a long enough shot. I just hated having to click twice to get into the main group to talk. And for us, it's just kind of an ongoing open chat. So eventually, I don't know, maybe we'll open up I don't know. Anyway, we might go off and start a Discord server or something like that. And it will help with organization, like Chris says. And Robin says it was just too busy. I get it. And that's how I felt. So I think this is probably where we're going to end up eventually with the workshop. I think the Telegram group is always going to be our Telegram group. I think we'll probably have, it seems like the offshoot groups keep growing a little bit, but we got a ham one and we got a book one now. We'll probably split things up a bit like that. But we'll probably, I said probably a lot tonight. We'll probably end up with a Discord server at some point where we can save things. Maybe. Who knows? Or maybe Noster will grow and we'll be able to get something on there like that. So anyway, I like to try new things. Sometimes they crash and burn. Sometimes they work really well. And then sometimes we put a pin in them and we're going to circle back later. Doesn't that sound like corporate double speak? Yeah, anyway. So, man, I've had so many damn things on my mind this week. And I know Saturdays tend to be the hodgepodge night. I know Fridays tend to be our party night, it seems. Haas had it perfect last night. He said, Friday night episodes are the great one to just sit and unwind. And it looks like Becky's going to be coming on just about every Friday night, which is awesome because, I love live streaming, but I love it with Becky even more. And I know I end up a lot of evenings down here with her upstairs. So it's nice for us to have something we can do together. And the episodes have been very well received, which is great. That makes me really excited. It means I think you like seeing her on here more than me, but I'm okay with that. So next I want to talk about my experience with crypto so far, or not just crypto. Okay, crypto, Lightning, decentralized tech in general, including some of the social media platforms. And I did basically a full episode on how Float sunk. We did last Sunday's episode on Noster. There's all kinds of things, but while I was driving the other day, I just wrote down or spoke into Notepad a whole bunch of thoughts I had because I don't know how to put it. Okay, so let's start with this, guys. We hear a lot of talk about crypto, decentralized tech in our anarchist, preparedness kind of field. And a lot of times it might feel like another box to check. It's like, well, do you eat keto? Check. Do you have content creation? Check. Do you have your own business? Check. Are you on decentralized tech? Do you use Bitcoin? Check. Well, here's the thing. This kind of shit should never be just another box to check. It's not a thing like, I'm a good anarchist if I use... There are some serious benefits to this. And I guess what I wanted to do was try to explain the benefits I see as a layperson in this. Somebody who's just kind of around the fringes of it. I'm no Josh or Brian when it comes to this stuff. They have a pretty good understanding of it. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But here's what I have seen about these leading edge, bleeding edge technologies, the ones that I've gotten started in to begin with. Okay, so the upside to me is unlimited. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take the social media platforms, for instance, and we could even take Float, for instance. I kind of grew my presence there to somewhere, I think right around 1,400 followers before they shut it down. Now, lots of people can say, well, aren't you pissed off that you put all that work in? Let's get to that because no, not at all, not even a little bit. So here's the thing. If you start on a new platform or if you start on, say, Lightning, for instance, which the guys, again, drug me kicking and screaming onto. If you start and you don't invest any of your own money, you just invest time and you get into the infrastructure and you start interacting with other people and you find ways on there to spend your time in order to earn whatever it is they're giving you back. And whether that's interaction, whether that's community, whether that is, Lightning, Satoshis, whatever it happens to be, the upside is incredible because if you keep growing with it, where does it end, right? It's like any social media platform or any new tech. The upside can go as far as it wants. What's the downside? Well, the downside is you could go to log in one day and they will have shut it down because they didn't have the money. They couldn't keep the lights on. They couldn't keep the doors open, whatever. Okay, guess what? What did I tell you before you start? Well, don't invest any of your own money at first. Just put your time into something and earn on the platform or build on the platform. So all of the benefits you get don't matter if one of these or 12 of these platforms end up falling apart because you've already gained the benefits. We've built a bigger community. In this instance, hopefully, if you've done value for value exchange and you found ways to make money using Lightning or Bitcoin, that sort of thing. So being on a platform as the early adopter, what's cool about Nostr right now, you log in and, Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, is on there and a bunch of other people. So you have access on these platforms when you're an early adopter, to people or topics, that sort of thing that you never would have if you hopped on to say, like, okay, for instance, go on Facebook right now and look at Mike Rowe's Facebook page. I think there's like 1 million followers. And the comments on every single thing he posts are just hundreds. It's just like watching a live stream with, thousands of viewers, right? So what are the chances that you're ever going to cut through that clutter? Well, guess what? On these new platforms, these new technologies, you have a really good chance of cutting through that clutter early on. And I love it. To me, that's what I like. Now, if you're looking to build a platform, these are the places to start. It's like being on Twitter when Twitter first started. I talked to Nicole about this a couple of years ago when Float first landed. It felt like that because you have this early adopter where you get in and you start making connections and it compounds really fast. So that I love. You have that opportunity to grow really, really quickly early on. You get to be one of the early adopters so that people turn to you and say, hey, can you help me with this? Or what's it like here? That sort of thing, right? Now, like I said, if you shut down, hey, Darkwing Dave, I always want to call you Darkwing Duck, but good to have you. So if it does shut down, well, you've lost some time, but you've built friendships. Hopefully you've built, a crypto stockpile of some sort. You've built experience. So here's the thing. You're going to build on that. So if one of these platforms does happen to fall apart, well, you've stretched your brain. You've learned something new. You've learned new skills. You've kept yourself in the loop because, teaching an old dog new tricks is pretty hard. But if you're the old dog that's in there and you're like, oh yeah, I learned that. Let's move on to the next. That's what I like about it. Now, here's the thing. You might say, but Tim, I don't have time to learn some of this new stuff. Well, do you think I do? Well, I did, last summer, Lightning was the big thing. Everybody's like, you got to learn Lightning, Tim. You got to get into it. Well, they're not fucking wrong. But at the same time, I said, I just don't have time or desire to do it. This is where an incredible community, surrounding yourself with a bunch of incredible communities really, really helps. First off, what do I like about it? Well, you're going to have people. Each individual in a community can only learn a few things. You can only be really interested in one or two topics at a time because it gets really difficult not, to divide your attention. So, for instance, Dave and Josh last summer, they're like, Tim, you need to do this Lightning thing. I'm like, I don't have time. And they just keep talking about it and they keep building it up. And they're like, try it. You won't be disappointed. So you have all these different people in your community who are getting interested in different things. And it's like a collective brain so that you can lean on them and everyone else in the community can lean on, say, somebody who is a crypto or a social media expert, or Chris, who happens to be a forge expert or a blacksmith expert. Robin Holstein would be a great person to talk to you about, short-term rental properties like the Holstein House, that sort of thing. Chuck Peoples, he'd be a great guy to talk to about, I want to say health and well-being, but emergency medicine, that sort of thing. So that's the beauty of a community because none of us have the time to be interested in everything as much as we'd love to. So allow your community to pull yourself along a little bit. Allow them to prod you, push you. I knew Chris Dixon would say something like that. Well, I promise you, brother, you're a way bigger expert on it than I am. And if I had questions, you'd be the guy I would turn to about blacksmithing, metal forging, and all kinds of other things. So also bourbon drinking. He's a pretty good expert at that with me. So we do pretty good. But that's the beauty of a community. So somebody gets involved in it. Again, you got the crypto evangelists there, and they have been helping us all get used to Nostr and taking the sting out of a new adoption of a technology. So that's the beauty of a community, is 2 or 3 people can learn one thing and then kind of share their passion with everybody else and then bring you along. So by being in a good community, that really helps. I don't know how many times I can mention the fact that being in a good community is important, but it really, really is. Now, here's the other thing. Lots of people say, well, you know what? I'm just going to wait and see which platform ends up being the big platform. Well, I knew people like that who used to be that way for TVs, for computers. They're like, well, the next big thing's just coming around the corner, so I'm going to wait and buy it then. And then they would never, ever pull the trigger on any certain purchase, because they would always be, well, I'm waiting to see which one's going to be the best one, or I'm waiting for the next good one to come out. And what ends up happening then is you never do anything. You never get involved in any platform, or you wait too long and the platform has become huge, like, MySpace. No, I'm just kidding. Like Facebook or Twitter, whatever it happens to be. And then it gets really hard to cut through the clutter on those type of platforms. So if you start early and you're like, you know what, this really isn't for me. So I did that with something like Minds, for instance. And I've tried some with other ones too, but Minds was one where I went in, I dipped my feet in. I'm like, not really for me. But I put a stake in there. I made my platform. I had a username and a profile up there, and it's still there. If I ever decide I want to pop back in, at least I tried, or I give it a shot, right? So that's where I kind of come from this. And, I can't explain, or, I probably could if I spent some more time doing some research, but why? Well, first off, why do I love Nostr? Well, I love the idea. And here's the thing. Is it going to succeed or fail? I have no idea. It's a free market enterprise with a whole bunch of cool people working on it. Will it? I don't know. If I had to give it odds, it may or it may not. If this were the first time I'd got on one of these platforms, I'd love to say, yeah, it's going to. I don't know. Maybe the next great thing will take its place. But what I am going to do is I'm going to hop on. I'm going to learn this technology, because the backbone of it, the concept of it, is what we're all going to use as freedom-loving, non or personal censorship individual voluntarists want. So even if Nostr isn't it, it's another step in the right direction, because Odyssey definitely isn't it, but it was a step in the right direction. Float definitely wasn't it, but now that wasn't decentralized. There was plans for it to go decentralized, but it was a step in the right direction. So Josh's ears must have been burning. He just showed up here. So Darkwing Dave says, you have your business, you help with the daycare, you do your podcast, you're on other podcasts, you do maintenance on your house, you spend time with your family, and at some point sleep. Still doesn't compute for me. I love you, Dave. I don't know. Here's the absolute worst thing about what I do. I still feel like I don't do enough. So yeah, I don't know. that is my own personal, what's the word for it? I don't know. That's my own curse, that I don't feel like we get enough done. We just work at it, we get asked that a lot. Becky and I both. How do we get as much done in the day as we do? And I'm not going to lie. There are, full hours where I will sit around and not do a whole lot except talk to the dogs or hang out with the family for a bit. And yeah, so we just prioritize the things that are important and don't worry about the rest of the shit. And I really am working really hard to find, to hire people, that's really helped at the daycare. We've got 3 incredible young ladies over there working who took all the stress off Becky when they went to England. And so, yeah, I don't know. We're just going to keep friggin' going and learning, right? So, yeah. Anyway, so this was kind of my passionate speech. So first off, Nostr. It's a great platform. Robin says, right now it's both fun and infuriating. Yes. It could be something like, dating for the first time or dating a new person for the first time. It's a lot of fun, but sometimes you need to work through some issues that frustrate you in order to get to all the good stuff, right? So there's that. Sometimes you overlook it and don't see it till later, but But yeah, Noster's great. And what I love about it is there's platforms built over top of this protocol. And like I said, whether the Noster, and if I'm using the wrong term here, Josh, you can slap me, but whether the Noster protocol succeeds or doesn't, something very similar to that is going to succeed, because we want, well, number one, we want it to, but number two, the way that it's built, it has to succeed. I love it. And it'll probably be the alternative platform that we all head toward. So yeah, be involved in it. Just keep your feet in it. And then Lightning, holy shit, don't even get me started on Lightning, because it really did solve all the problems that Bitcoin had. You know, I talked, I can't remember if it was Brian or Josh, but we talked about all these shit coins that first came out. Everybody wanted to make their own coin. That was the biggest problem with all of these off-brand social media platforms, like Float, for instance, the Float tokens, right? That really sucked, because here's another one, LBC on Odyssey, the library coin. Man, I made good money on that for the first few months, and then all of a sudden it completely collapsed. So, you know, is it possible for anything to fall apart? Sure it is, yes. But what I love about Lightning is it's built on the backbone of Bitcoin. And, you know, if Bitcoin ends up falling apart, everything is falling apart as far as crypto goes. So try to stick with the more sensible long-term ones in that instance. But Lightning has fixed all the problems. You know, you have almost no transaction fees. You have instant access to money. So before this, guys, here, like in Canada, we have a really cool system linked all of the major banks called Interac e-Transfer, where I can e-transfer money directly from my bank account using email or text message to anyone else in the country. What I can't do is use that same program or platform to send money to the States, to any one of my friends in the States. Now, we don't have Venmo in Canada. So I can't, everybody's always like, hey, do you have Venmo? Well, we do have PayPal. PayPal's a pain in the ass. They have their fees. Guess what? With Lightning, you know, if Brian needs something right now, I can just send him some Lightning and he could, you know, he knows how to transfer it out from there. But yeah. And there it is. Josh says it's the backbone, the new future stuff we will use, will be built on. And that's exactly it. So getting involved in this gets us familiar with that backbone. And then, okay, if the platform we're on sinks, that's okay. We've made new friends. We've built a bigger community. We've made some money. We've learned some shit. Let's hop over. The next transition won't be so bad. And eventually, we're going to find the anarchist version of, I want to say Facebook, but you know what I mean. The big platform that everybody kind of sits on. So there's that. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share tonight first was just my gut feeling on why this stuff is important. And then, yeah, there was 3 things I wrote down. I put communication privacy, personal censorship, and financial privacy. So what is great about this is you can use this kind of technology to communicate openly or privately, however you'd like, without being at the whim of government censorship or big tech saying, guess what? We don't agree with you this week. And you guys all know this, but these are things that are deadly important to me and hopefully deadly important to you. And that's another reason to be on some of these platforms. Number 2 is personal censorship. And you're saying, censorship, why the hell? No, here's the thing, guys. The only censorship should be personal censorship. So that means that if I don't like what's on the fucking television, I turn it off. And that's what's great about this platform. I get to choose what I see, what I don't see. Not somebody else doesn't get to make my mind up for me. Very, very important. And then finally, financial privacy, guys. And it may or may not ever come to the fact that we need it. It probably will, but I don't want to say it. I don't fucking know. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I do know that there are times that I would love to be able to send somebody money that I don't want anyone else to know about. And guess what? This technology allows us to do it. Now, surround yourself with great people that know how to do this shit and then move on from there for sure. Yes. And then Chris, so yes, it is. And it's really funny that you mentioned this, Chris. So Chris says, is strictly digital currency not a concern? Yeah, it is a concern. Now, here's the thing. What I like about a digital currency is it allows instant transfer to people over very long distances, something that in person isn't necessarily as needed for. Now, who knows? I mean, physical currency has its place. I love silver. I would love to have more gold, but barter is where it's at, I think, when it comes to a hard currency that we'll use locally. I think that's what it'll come down to. And that's part of building a really good community. So yes, digital currency alone, I'm not going to put my full stake behind it. I love the idea of being outside of the normal system and using it. But yeah, totally. Yeah, because it can be shut off. I know, it is what it is. There's a really cool article that I read as part of the podcast. In a couple of weeks, you'll like it. And I shared it. I sent it to Josh earlier just to give him a piece of this because it's a really neat look into history. But it was a really early concept of barter on the early digital. It's even hard to call them computers, but anyway, it's a really neat idea. So it involves ledgers and computers and barter and trade. So yeah, we always need some form of hard currency, whether it be barter or goods and services or precious metals or fiat currency, I guess. But yeah, and Lots Project says beard is looking great, man. Thank you very much. It's coming. I think we're going to keep it all year. We'll see. So anyway, I know you guys showed up to hear about side hustles, and I give you a 20-minute sermon on the beauty of, open source, peer-to-peer, blockchain technology, all of that. And I don't know enough about it to share everything, but it is what it is. I see we got 15 people in here across all the platforms. Nice to have you. Yeah, share it if you want, let people know we're going live. So, Josh, you are not wrong at all. This is exactly it. Digital currency is inevitable, but I don't want their currency to be the only option. Exactly. It's like AI, for instance, it's coming. People are like, whoa, we can't. What are we going to do? Shake your fist at the cloud harder, boy. Well, it's coming. So it's good to have, it's good to understand it. It's good to know how to work around it, because if we pretend like we can't or we don't know what it is, it's still coming. It's just going to trample us over. So yeah, I appreciate that. Lots Project says side hustle, selling shit on Nostr. Yes. I'll never give up hard currencies. I'll never give up. I love the idea of barter and, swapping work for product and that sort of thing. That'll always be. But yeah, you're right. That's a great way to look at it, Josh, is having our own alternative, because it is what it is, right? Robin says this crew probably isn't worried about staying on topic, but other people probably are. Yeah, that's what I love. But yeah, so Saturday night's always fun. We got, I had 2 pages of notes on crypto tonight to begin with. So we're going to slide into side hustles next, and we'll at least hit one issue or one article on the Stranger Than Fiction. So first off, we're going to go 10 more that we didn't talk about a few weeks ago when we did the last episode. And it was a really, really well-received episode. So it's great. Number 1, 4-letter word that everybody knows how much I hate, but IKEA furniture assembly. Now, I say IKEA, but really what I mean is flat-packed furniture assembly. Now, what I'm going to tell you first is practice at home. You need to. Don't go to somebody's house and cut your teeth on the very first time you've ever assembled a piece of flat pack furniture at a customer's house, because you are going to have a bad day. You're going to end up breaking something, and you're going to end up owing more money than what you started with. So don't do it. Practice at home. Hey, Martinson family, good to have you. Have the right tools. It doesn't take a lot. A couple of good screwdrivers. Allen keys are key, especially for IKEA furniture. Buy yourself some of those Allen key impact adapters. I love the Nico ones from Amazon. I think they're $11 for, is it a 9-piece kit? That's probably one of the pieces in my tool bag I use the most, but have that. Open everything first. Get all the pieces out, set them up against a wall or on a flat surface, because you need to know. It's like putting a puzzle together. You ever go to a retirement home and there'll be a puzzle sitting there on a table and missing one piece. And you're like, what happened? Well, it was missing. Now, of course, you can't count all the pieces to a puzzle before you start, but you can make sure you have everything before you start for IKEA. Because on many, many occasions, I have got pieces, either 2 of one piece and none of the other, or I've had broken pieces. Sometimes you can't tell they're broken until you get them out of the box. So open everything up, inspect everything, organize it. So put all like pieces in one pile. This will save you a ton of time. Then build yourself a nice flat work area, like a 4x8 or a flat table with. Now, if you didn't bring a moving blanket with you, which you can get at Princess Auto or Harbor Freight, then use the cardboard that it came with. Just watch out for staples, lay it down, and give yourself a flat, waist-high area to work on. Take your time, practice reading instructions, and just do exactly what you need to do. That's it. And it's not that hard. Oh, yes, thank you very much. That was in my notes too. Chris says, super careful with power tools and flat box garbage. I mean furniture. Yeah. So, okay, that is one of the main reasons that I bought. If you guys saw that, what do they call it? Called not an oscillating, but it gyroscopic power screwdriver. It's I believe it's an 8-volt one from DeWalt. I bought that because I traditionally use my impact driver on IKEA furniture. And more than once I pulled the trigger just a little too hard and whoomp. It's really hard. There are videos on how to fix that kind of shit, but if you strip something out in IKEA furniture, you're probably hooped. So stay away from power tools if you can help it, because it's really easy to sneeze and pull that trigger too hard and wreck something. I'm not going to say I didn't do it for a lot of years, but that the gyroscopic screwdriver has been a game changer for assembling furniture. What I like about it as well is if you don't push the button, it locks into place and you can use it as a standard screwdriver as well. That's become my go-to for assembling that kind of stuff. Darkwing Dave says, yes, saw those Allen Bit keys, immediately went on the order list. They're awesome. So I have 4 different items from Nico right now. And they're awesome. I've bought, and it's a cheap brand. So they typically have a red label on Amazon, Neiko. I have 2 sets of the Allen key adapters. I have a set of Torx, which are actually security Torx. So I needed those, and my nut drivers. They're shallow. That's the only downside. I wish they were deeper ones, but all of them have been used and abused. And that little kind of rubbery plastic holder they come with holds up really well. So as far as assembling for IKEA, that kind of stuff, if you're trying to get busy, go into your local Home Depot, your local Lowe's, your local your hardware store, or IKEA, and talk about being an independent contractor. A lot of them are doing gig work where they'll hire you to assemble furniture. So, you may not want to keep doing that because you won't make as much money as if you do it for other people. But who's to say you couldn't, advertise in the back of your vehicle and drive through an IKEA parking lot or so. I don't know. Anyway, but there's lots and lots of money to be made there. Number 2, and if our buddy Dan is out there listening tonight, knife sharpening. He made a killing doing that using the Nextdoor app. He would just advertise and say, hey, I'm going to sharpen knives this week. Give me a call. Either you can drop them off to me in a bundle, or I will pick them up in a bundle. And he would offer to sharpen every knife in your kitchen. You pick them up, he'd sharpen them, take them back the next day. Now, again, it doesn't cost a lot to do, but invest a little bit of time up front to learn how to sharpen knives properly. You do that, and then you offer a really good service to people, and they will be happy. What's great about that is you have a built-in returning clientele, especially if you're willing to pick them up and drop them off. I think it was like $7 a knife, and he would pick up whole bundles from people. So, and did really, really well, to the point where he was almost too busy with it. At one point, Nextdoor shut off his ads and he lost all his customers. He fixed that later on, but it's a beautiful, easy, non-labor intensive. It's a type of thing that you can do, put on the Workshop podcast, put it in your ears, and sharpen knives. There is a gentleman who started his channel almost the same week I did. I'm sure he's still doing it. It was called the Thursday Night Grind. And he would just do a live stream for an hour or 2 while he sharpened knives on Thursday night. I cannot remember the dude's name. If anybody knows who he is, really cool guy. I think he came out of the TSP extended community or I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, just neat. Always remember ways to create content, attract customers, that kind of stuff. Now, number 3, this is, I call it home assessments. Now, what I mean by that, I don't mean being a home assessor where you give them a price for selling it or anything. What I mean is going in and offering assessments for making a house senior livable, baby proofing, or going in and doing fire and carbon monoxide assessments for people. This is a really good get your foot in the door kind of service. John Pugliano, a couple of years ago, sent me a very old episode of his podcast talking about getting rich off a handyman business. And one of his suggestions was to go around and offer free 9-volt battery installation service for local customers. So it'd get you in, you'd go in, you'd replace the battery in their smoke detector under the understanding that if you did that, you were allowed to walk around and give them an assessment of things that may or may not need to be done in the house. Great idea. I seen somebody the other day who was offering to do baby proofing for people. And then, of course, senior living is great. I watched, probably a half-hour show on this a few years ago about the need to build houses. They didn't call it end of life, but for whole life service. So it was about putting reinforced plywood behind the wall going up the stairs in order to install stair lifts, or putting 3/4-inch plywood on the wall behind where you would eventually put in grab bars and that kind of stuff. But, being able to install grab bars, being able to install chair lifts, anything like that, all of that would be great. Robin says, I would love to learn to sharpen knives and scissors. So I haven't gotten into doing scissors. I know Patrick Worman, his kit that he has is awesome. I love my Lansky sharpener. It was $40 to $60. I can't remember exactly. There's a bit of a learning curve. I found 1 or 2 videos that knocked it out of the park for me. And now I can sit down and put a very serviceable edge repetitively on my everyday carry knife. So it's worth it if you want to learn. And it doesn't take that long. I taught myself. It took way longer to learn with a flat stone than it ever did with the Lansky sharpening set. And the Lansky's so easy to use. Haas says, AI is exploding. Think it'll be faster than anticipated. I agree. And Robin says she needs stuff to do from the house. I got 1 or 2, maybe 1 that involves being at home, because I was thinking about that. And every time I put these lists together, damn it, I need to do one for now. And I know you're not a stay-at-home mom at this point, Robin, but I need to do one for ladies who live at home, or, stay-at-home moms, that kind of stuff, because I do have plans of doing kind of a not so nice episode on multi-level marketing and how they take advantage of ladies. So I'll put together a list of side hustles for stay-at-home mom and women and people who work from home, that kind of stuff, because it's a great thing to have for sure. That's exactly it. Robin says, with the B&B, I need to be around here plus the poultry. Exactly. Next. So this one is and of course, a lot of these on my list come out of my own personal experience, but I call this either small engine repair or small engine maintenance. Now, you could start in the maintenance end of things and then work into the repair if you want, but there's not a lot of people doing that kind of maintenance stuff. And that is, going to somebody's house and cleaning the air filter, changing out the spark plug, running some seafoam through it, looking for broken parts on it, just the simple stuff, making sure things are maintained, or winterizing gear, dewinterizing or unwinterizing, I don't know, whatever it is, any of that kind of stuff. But just doing the routine maintenance to keep stuff. You could actually go around to, say, guys that do landscaping and get an ongoing contract with them. Hey, I'll come in once a week, sharpen your mower blades, oil whatever needs to be done, clean out your air filters, whatever, that kind of stuff. Ongoing maintenance that, and then you could, if there's something you can't fix, write it down and say, hey, this is the thing that needs to be fixed, that kind of stuff for sure. Next, now, one more tip on number 4 on small engine repair. Figure out how to find the manuals online. It's easy. Just type in the model number, find the manufacturer's website, type in the model number, you'll have it. Now, in there, find the parts breakdown, find the parts number for it, take that part number, plug it into both Amazon and eBay. Amazon first. What you're going to end up finding is probably the exact same part that the OEM, original equipment manufacturer, sells for half to 3/4 cheaper, and you're going to get it faster without a minimum order from Amazon. I do it all the time for appliances, for small engines, any of that stuff. If I need it, put it into Amazon. Then check eBay. eBay has a lot of good stuff too. And if you buy stateside, you'll get it pretty quick. So there you go. That's it for that one. Next one is Renegade Butcher says springerizing. So the next one is winterizing and dewinterizing. Now, this will not necessarily be something that Josh could do in Texas, but for, a majority of the continental United States, it is something that has to be done. The further north you go, the more essential it is that it's done. But this can be simple things like insulating pipes. I mean, this is something that can even be done in Tennessee, for instance. Going in, wrapping pipes, putting electrical tape on them, especially if you don't bury the shit, right? Maybe putting insulation or skirting around trailers. You could do draining water systems. So what's really big up here in Alberta is people love to camp. Everybody owns a camper. And the thing you have to do is, before it gets put away, unless you got heated storage, you got to drain it and then fill every plumbing area with glycol or antifreeze. It's like this pink stuff, right? So now you could be opening yourself up to some liability. So if you're going to do this, it may be something that you want to have, some really good insurance for. If you're thinking about it, it's up to you, whatever your tolerance for risk is. But, go in, and what's great about it, first off, you start winterizing gear for people, and then you go back and make the money again when you flush it out and get everything up and running for them as well. This can also go for vacation properties, for cabins, for cottages, for boats, any of that kind of stuff. Anything that needs to be winterized, go and do it. And for the most part, it don't take a lot of gear to do it. Renegade Butcher says they winterize for 2 days every year for the winter they get. So yeah, exactly. Next is pressure washing. And if you saw the tonight's tool, it's the Karcher surface washer. If you've never seen one of those are those incredibly satisfying YouTube videos. 15-inch round. They're universal. They'll fit any quick connect connection on the end of your pressure washer. So if you already own a pressure washer, these things are awesome. They're so much fun to play with. You can usually even use them wearing shoes and not get your feet that wet. But they're just round. They have a spinning nozzle with two outputs on them. And what they'll do is they'll take a 15-inch swath. If you've ever tried to wash out or pressure wash a sidewalk with a regular nozzle, you end up getting all those streaks and lines and you look like, a 3-year-old kid did it. Well, these don't do that. They do a 15-inch pass right along and do a perfect cleaning job. So what can you use that for? So if you already have a pressure washer, buy yourself one of those for $70. You can do decks, you can do stairways, you can do walkways, sidewalks, driveways, parking lots for small businesses, any of that. And the sky's the limit on what you can charge for it. It's fun, it's easy, and the learning curve is about 10 minutes, and then you're good to go. So if you already have a pressure washer, get yourself a surface cleaner. You'll love it. I just got a telegram here from Conrad Frank. He says, does Maximum Overdrive count as an outbreak film? What do you guys think? I mean, it was the Earth passed through the tail of a comet, and then machines came to life. So I'll allow it. Yeah, we'll check with the judges, but you guys can let me know for sure. Next, picture hanging for sure. Renegade Butcher says, always be sure to wash your deck. The ladies really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, when you're entertaining anyone, everybody always appreciates a nice, clean, well-washed, not so worn deck, right? Simple as that. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, number 7, picture hanging. Now, this is something I started back when I was 15 years old working at the library. 3 years, I was a student assistant, worked 10 hours a week, every week, from the beginning of grade 10 to the end of grade 12. I worked Tuesday through Friday from 6 till 8 and Saturday from 12 till 2 every single week. And I loved it. It was a fun job, but we had the program room there. And every 3 months, everything would switch out. And we would have local artists or photographers that would come in and drop off their stuff. And then they're like, well, hey, Tim, you're a guy. You should be able to hang pictures. And I'm thinking, I don't know how to hang anything. So I learned. I wasn't very good at it, but I got better with time. Now, I love the 3M Velcro strips. They are perfect for hanging lightweight pictures. So get yourself some of them. They work beautifully. But also learn how the different type of anchors and things you can get. There's those push-in ones that look like an arc or like a half circle. They work really good. My favorite ones are the toggle bolts. Now, they make a bigger hole, but if you have something really heavy, you have to drill usually about a 1/4-inch hole, and then there's a spring-loaded square piece on the back, and you push it through, and then it springs open, and then you can tighten the bolt down. It's probably the strongest drywall anchor I've found, but picture hanging is great. I put in my notes, it's not for everyone because it's not. Some people don't have the patience for it. Nate LeMaster, there's the Chicken Baron himself. Good to have you, brother. We're going to be bailing Nate out of jail before too long, but I love you, buddy. We'll get you out. Anyway, next, garden weeding. This, I think Carrie Brown, if you're listening to this, Carrie, I'm sure you're out hustling away, working, but if you hear this, I'm pretty sure he offers this service. We did it for a couple of years in the handyman business, and it was just awesome. Now, you can do it. We did it in 2 different ways. One is just offer to go in for people when they get behind in their weeds and they just need things weeded out really quick, or I need a big job done. That's great. But what's really good is the ongoing revenue ones where you find a customer and you're like, hey, guess what? Or, you want the upwardly mobile customer who wants to hire somebody to do shit they don't want to do. So you can get paid to go in and get their garden ready in the spring, clean it out in the fall, go back once a week to weed. And if you want to get really creative, you can offer to purchase, design, and install the whole garden for them. All of that. It would be great. Let's see what we got here. Darkwing Dave says, 2 great life hacks I saw for hanging stuff. Yes, very good. Put a fork through one of the hooks from the bottom, drop the picture over the tines, pull the fork. Yes, that's great. The other one is what I love, using a piece of painter's tape, put it on the back, especially when you have 2 holes. They're miserable. And this way you don't have to measure it. Put the tape on the back, punch the holes through on both sides, stick the tape on the wall, put your anchors through those 2 holes, take your tape off, hang your picture, go have a beer. Simple as that. Yeah. Oh, I beat Dave. Sorry, Dave. I just stole his thunder. He was going to give us the second one. So, all right. Next, security installs and smart home upgrades. I thought of Chicken Hawk on this one. He loves smart home devices. And if that's your passion or if you're interested in it, why not, say, hey guys, I'm offering Wi-Fi enabled plugs. I can come and install them, which are great. If people want to control things around here, one thing that the farmers have been getting into is installing, depending on how many cows you have, they like to have them in the calving barns or the calving pens so that they can keep an eye on their calves, because most farmers barely sleep at all during calving season, 6 to 8 weeks where they barely sleep. So, if they could check the cameras, that would be great. So setting up, now that requires 2 things or 3. It requires usually a power source. It requires hooking up the cameras. And then it also requires getting Wi-Fi or some sort of connectivity from their house to wherever it needs to be. So all of that, it can be very specialized, or you can do it very, very simple. Also, now, a lot of people don't want to pay an ongoing monthly fee for cameras. I love my cameras. I can sit here, look up, and right above me, I can see 4 of them on that monitor at one time. I don't pay anything for it. They're all hardwired. So if, there's no interference with them, the only time they go down is if the power goes out and I don't have my generator hooked up, that sort of thing. But people like that. So maybe offer to do that. Do something like Tactical Redneck. He came on the show a couple of years ago and talked about doing a tactical assessment of the property. Now, I wouldn't call it a tactical assessment, but I might call it a security assessment. Offer free security assessments to different customers and say, hey, could I give you an assessment on this? Or offer to go and replace the replace a screw in every hinge and on the strike plate, that kind of stuff, right? All of that would be really, really good. I'm going to save this. Yes. Okay. Haas, I'm going to save this till I get past number 1. And we'll come back to your question in just a minute. And okay. And Renegade says, wire up calf cams to live stream for lightning tips and take 50% split. That's not a bad idea. Anyway, we'll come back to it. All right. Number 10. Now this is one, at least a portion of this you might be able to do, Robin. I don't know how much you like animals. We love animals. We've actually thought about opening a doggy daycare center here as well. Actually, that was one of our ideas. During the first year of the daycare, when it was getting really quiet, we toyed with the idea of shutting down for kids and opening up for dogs, but we didn't. And thankfully we didn't, but we may open one. So dog sitting, house sitting, dog walking, or a doggy daycare. Now that is something people will bring their dogs to you. Before Gracie started working at the daycare, she ran a doggy daycare from her home, got paid really good money. I forget what she was. I think it was like it was $100 a day. No, maybe it wasn't that much. Maybe 30 or 40. I'll ask her at some point, but it doesn't matter. Either way, she lived 10 minutes out of town. People would drive their dogs to them, right? Robin doesn't like them. That's cool. I get it. My daughter made bank with it, and it wasn't that hard. Now, if it's not something you like, that's okay too. But there's always that kind of stuff. Now, if you're young or single or have some time, we hire. So we have, there are 2 young girls who come to the house when we travel, and they look after our dogs. So for a weekend anyway, they'll come 4 times a day, check on the dogs. They'll feed them, clean up their messes, take them outside, play with them, socialize them. That's a big job when you're dealing with 8 animals like us. So that kind of thing. Good for kids, but also could be good for adults. Darkwing Dave says, knew a professional like you would have known that along many, he's talking about that, the tape hack. I like that one. So Haas says, how do you find out what to charge so you're not being too low or too high? Very, very good question. Now, if you're like 95% of the population, when you first start charging, you're going to charge too little. But you're going to know right away, because here's the deal. When you start a job and you quote by a job or by whatever, and you're not making enough money, you're going to hate that job. You're going to despise the job. You're not going to want to go there. You're going to want to finish it as fast as you humanly possibly can. And right then you're going to know, I'm not charging enough. Now, how do you know you're charging too much? Well, I eventually took on the idea that if I got 50% of the jobs I bid, I was really happy. A person much wiser than me once said, you should always be a little uncomfortable when you're giving somebody the price. And that's it. So here's the thing. You're probably going to start low. I started way too low. But what you're going to do is, and Renegade, if you're out there and you want to chime in, I'm kind of wondering how you kind of worked your way up with meat cutting and that sort of thing. But so you're going to start low and you're going to be like, man, I hate that. And then you're going to do a job and you're going to price it. And the customer's going to say, yeah, I'll do it. And you're going to feel pretty good about that price. So if you feel pretty good, you need to put your price up some more, because you need to get to the point where you're comfortable giving someone a price that is a little bit high in your mind. Because you got to remember, you're absolutely worth it. Your time is the only resource you can never get back or earn more of. So if you're going to give your time to somebody else, it needs to be absolutely worth it. At this point, whenever I work, I try to make $100 an hour. I don't ever tell customers I'm going to charge them $100 an hour. I give them a per job price. And I'm at the point where I'm really not doing much of this now because we have all of our own work to keep us busy. But you need to figure out how much you want to make per hour, go a little higher than that, and then make sure that you build in a buffer. But yes, so you're going to start low. I promise you'll start low. Everybody does. Work your way up. Each time you price something, go a little bit higher. And then when you start getting to the point where when you're pricing something, giving somebody a quote, and half the time they say, yeah, that's okay. And the other half's like, ooh, no, that price is too high. Well, that customer wasn't your ideal customer anyway. As long as you're doing good work, then you deserve getting paid for it. So work your price up until you get to the point where you feel uncomfortable giving the price, and you're getting about, in my mind, it was 50% of the people agree to take it. And then as long as you're making a good living, be happy with that. I am, and if expenses go up, things need to go up. But other than that was the process I took. And it, that was a 5-minute explanation for something that was 3 uncomfortable, weird, just difficult years for a bit. So yeah, that's where I ended up with it. Made me happy. But you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's part of business. I've had to, you have to flick the bitch switch once in a while. You have to make decisions that people aren't going to like, and you have to be okay with that. It's like that in property management as well. There is a time, I'm just going to explain it like this. So for anybody who's ever dispatched an animal, when you have to pull the trigger to shoot a pig, or you have to swing the axe to decapitate a chicken, it sucks. I never got used to it, but what I was able to do was to take whatever that was and turn it off. So you have to be able to, and this is the same way in business. And I don't mean to be ruthless, but what I mean is things that maybe bothered you before, because I will tell you this, I grew up a pushover, an absolute horrible pushover and a people pleaser. I'm a phlegmatic who likes to get along with everybody. That doesn't work in business, because if you try to please everybody, you're going to end up pleasing nobody. So eventually you have to learn how to, and this is going to sound weird, but kind of bury that. Get comfortable with maybe a little bit of conflict, a little bit of uncomfortableness, and you'll do better for it. You'll get confident, and you'll be able to dicker or negotiate with people, give people the price that you know you're worth. And also, for instance, like this year, I was called last minute for a job, for a snow job. And they said to me, okay, here's the deal. We need you. And they didn't call me. So they had told me they didn't want me. And so these were my words, and they weren't mean. I went and I looked at the job and I said, okay, here's your price. And it was a high price, because I didn't want the work. And I said, this is your price. I know you're going to have to take it back to your management, but here's the deal. Come back with a yes or no. Do not come back with a lower price, because if you do, I won't be able to do your snow this year. Now, that Tim, 5 years ago, could never have done that. So yeah, that is what it is. Yes, that's right, Nate. Nate says, if butcher days are easy, there's a problem. And so I know I'm equating, butchery and animal husbandry to business, but there is some truth to that, because for me to say that wasn't easy. I still felt like it was a bit of a betrayal to the old pushover Tim, but I have to be able to put that down inside and do the things that need to be done for business and for pricing and for, giving people and getting what you're worth in it. So that is what it is. And earlier you asked how we get so much done. It's because, a lot of things we would have done before we don't do anymore, because we don't have the time to do them. So focus on the important things, make the money that you're entitled to, because you are worth it. You're the only you. And if you're willing to show up, and especially if you're doing a friggin' side hustle in the evenings or the weekends, go and get your money. Thanks, Nate. I appreciate it. They say it's a great analogy. And I think it is, because that is always been my struggle. Watching The Last of Us earlier this year, and there was a time when there was a really good friend of hers. She had to walk into a room and put her down because she was infected. And you could see where she just had to flick that switch. That's not an easy thing, but you can do it. So yeah, that's what it is for tonight. So I ended up, I had a couple of, we're still rolling. Everybody out there still good to go a little bit longer. I had a couple of cool news articles we could cover for the Stranger Than Fiction. Let's bring one up and we'll see how we make out with it. And if we still have a little time, we'll slide one more in. Preset, share screen for you guys. Entire screen. This guy right here. Share. Bring him in. Whoops. Sorry, guys. There's little Tim in the corner. That's probably close enough. All right. So here's the first story I found this week. It was interesting. I had to dig into it quite a bit, because Becky asked me, she said, or I asked her, I said, how would this happen? So here is, Robin says, I'm really late getting my church service stuff done. That's okay. Keep going. We'll be here. We'll keep you company. You don't have to always interact. Poor thing. I know it. I keep asking questions and make you get distracted. So, all right, here's the article. 11 transported to hospital for carbon monoxide poisoning. Okay, that part, that's normal, unfortunately. Here's the second part of that headline. After barbecue used inside to heat home. How does that happen, folks? How does someone, it must have been desperate. I looked up the temperatures. This was in Ontario. The temperatures were right about freezing. So you could have survived without needing heat. Now, I'm sure they were uncomfortable. Sounds like there was 11 people living in their own house. I don't know what happened. So anyway, 11 people went to the hospital with carbon monoxide poisoning because they decided to light up a barbecue indoors. 2 adults, 9 children, single family, transported to the hospital. Here's the even worse. Friday, after a charcoal barbecue was used inside to heat the home. That just scares the hell out of me. I don't know, Nate. So real quick, I'm going to fill you guys in on a story of something I almost really fucked up one time. So we had a barbecue. So, back up, Tim, not a barbecue, a camper. We used to park it in our driveway. We used to let the kids go out and play in it. And they were 10 or 11, and Alice and Charlotte would go out and spend the night out there. I would check on them sometimes. Well, one day they weren't sleeping yet. They were out there playing, and their cousin Noah was hanging around in there with them. He got to playing with the knobs on the propane stove, and they all come in and said, "Dad, it stinks in there. I don't know what's going on." Scared the shit out of me. I went out, and he had turned on the gas to the propane stove. Now, 100%, if something ever, I probably wouldn't be here today if something had happened, guys. Anyway, so it's because I had the gas off at the stove, but I had the tanks on at the supply. So anyway, shit can happen really quick. So I tell you this story because, Jesus, anything bad could happen, right? Darkwing Dave says, another scales trainer told me, along with being uncomfortable with the price, you have to be able to look at the person completely calm and give your price. So practice if you have to. Yeah. Hello, my name is Ingo. What is in? I can never pronounce his name. Ingo Montoya. Here is my price. Prepare to buy. Yes, that is true. That and if you can give somebody that price completely calm without any, just personal detachment, there's going to be way less conversation afterwards. So anyway, Ottawa Paramedic Service said Saturday 11 individuals were in stable condition. Firefighters were called at 7:30. The firefighters recorded a carbon monoxide reading of 180 parts per million, more than 20 times higher than the maximum safe level for indoor. The fire department says they were using a charcoal barbecue. Oh my God, I didn't even catch this. On the second floor of a row house as a heat source because electrical service was out. Fire services ventilated the home and confirmed the levels were back to normal. On Friday, the fire service posted online the crews performing wellness checks had seen many residents using generators inside garages and homes that were without electric power following the ice storm on Wednesday. Oh, Nate says, WTF, did they forget to pipe the fumes out? I don't know what happened there, guys. That is so scary. And charcoal, because, it stinks, but there's not going to, anyway. He said, again, so we remember, carbon monoxide's colorless, odorless, tasteless, toxic gas that enters the body through the lungs during normal breathing. It replaces oxygen in the blood, prevents the flow of oxygen to the heart, brain, and other vital organs. It is, he says it's potentially fatal. I would venture to say it's almost always fatal. It sucks. I mean, I've talked to many people who have almost died from it. That was just really not smart at all. Ottawa Fire says, during our wellness checks, we've seen many residents using generators inside the garage and in the home. What do we always say? Number one rule of survival is if you don't survive, you failed. Oh, boy. So you're right. And this is exactly it, Robin. As much as we know not to do that, there are so many who still don't. Also, and that's why I talk about this stuff, and hopefully we all share it to other people, because you would think I would have known to turn off the propane at the 30-pound tanks on my camper, but I didn't, or I didn't think about it, because it just takes one dumbass, lazy thing to do, and you can end up with 11 people in the hospital. And again, this is in an area where it's a lot of new residents to Canada, so they may not have an understanding of how some of that stuff works. That's scary. And absolutely. And Robin, you're not wrong. Robin says, don't want to get into the politics of public education, but they don't teach that stuff anymore. I mean, I think they still have fire safety month. I don't know, but around here we have farm safety. So they tell people don't stick your arm in an auger and don't jump into grain bins, because both those things are immensely deadly. But a lot of this stuff, it would be, anyway, that's scary. So remember, just always think, and for us, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but hopefully we can all get a chance to preach to, the congregation someday as well. So make sure that you can, just make sure you look out for other people. Haas says, how are those buddy heaters safe then in the house? From what I understand, they burn so efficiently that the off gas from them, and it's propane, of course, that the off gas from them is so minimal and it's only burning such a little amount that they are technically safe. Now, there are videos on there, so this is really cool. There was a firefighter who came to, so there's this YouTuber who has an RV channel, and everybody said, I know these big buddies, or the little buddy heaters, are technically rated safe for houses. So they turned it on, they ran it all night. So it was 8 or 9 hours in the RV. The firefighter kitted up, walked in there, and the carbon monoxide levels were 0, completely safe. The only thing they do is create quite a bit of condensation. So it has to be, and I will look into this more for you, Haas. I don't want to forget about it. But yeah, and a lot of them do have automatic shutoffs now with CO monitors built in. That's really good, Robin. A lot of generators have that now too. And I got a question from a guy one day. They're like, how can I bypass that? I'm like, you don't. You shouldn't. Not a good idea. Anyway, so yeah, always have backup. Make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector, because this shit can still malfunction, and that will be bad. But yeah, right there, he said, Dixon says you can park a CO detector right beside the buddy heater. Lots of condensation because it's propane. And I'm going to guess that it really is that it just burns so efficiently with no off-gassing, or very, very little, because there's nothing to it. And for that matter, a modern vehicle, you can't kill yourself with a modern vehicle anymore. I mean, I've done this. I have a carbon monoxide detector. I've got a 2000 Ram 1500 and whatever this one is, a 2020 or something like that. So go take the CO detector and stick it in the tailpipe of my new truck. Once it's warmed up and running, it doesn't register. Go put it over on my old truck, and every alarm and siren on the planet goes off at once. So, things can be good enough. They can burn efficiently enough that it doesn't, but still have a backup. So yeah, this one scared me. I had to share this with you guys because now the other one, this one's kind of a fun one. Give me a second here. Let it reload. This is from Vice. I saw this. There's a lawyer YouTuber that I follow, and I can't remember for the life of me who it is right at the moment, but he was the one talking about the story, so I dug into it a little bit more. Haas says, I have a few, but could never trust using them in the house. Now, I understand that, Haas. We all have our own personal comfort levels, for sure. If you can buy relatively inexpensive portable carbon monoxide detectors that run on a 9-volt battery that will stay on the whole time. I have one. I just used it because I installed a brand new hot water tank like I talked about. And the vent is right there, and I wanted to make sure it was vented properly. So I took it, I turned it on, and I set it next to the vent. So if it came out anywhere, it would be right there. And I left it for 16 hours without it registering even a little blip on it. So, but yeah, I get it. Not everybody's comfortable with that, right? Okay. Renegade says, I baked myself sleeping drunk in the back of a van with a buddy heater, and I could breathe fine. Just woke up roasting. Yeah. Better than my cousin one time. When in high school, we used to go down the French Shore drinking to the Clare Social Club. Little Brook is what they called it. He got pretty hammered on whiskey, went out to his truck, passed out in his truck because he knew he couldn't drive. Woke up in the morning. He'd forgot to shut the door to his truck, and he had snow right up to his waist. He's surprised. He said he didn't end up getting frostbite or something. So yeah, stupid things we do when we're drunk. Many, many stupid things I did. So here's this one here, guys. FCC going after pirate radio station operating from a Portland church. This is kind of interesting. So here's the thing. I didn't realize this. Nate will probably appreciate this, but a couple of years ago, the Biden administration raised or give a whole bunch more money to the FCC for going after pirate or offending radio signals. So they've been going pretty crazy and pretty hard on this. And you guys know I'm a sucker for radio stuff, but this is also a comms thing, and it's also a gray man thing. So it says, in an age where seemingly everyone has a podcast and some cars don't even have AM radio, pirate radio isn't a topic that always comes up. But now this is great. This is perfect. This is typical government. But the FCC, thanks to fresh enforcement capabilities it received from Congress a few years ago, is going after any pirate radio station it can. Now, I want to show you guys something if I can find it here. So they enabled a new act. And since the government does what the government does, they used an acronym, and the act is a bunch of letters that make up the word pirate. Typical government, right? Last month, the commission issued at least 2 separate complaints regarding pirate radio stations in Oregon, including one at a Portland area church. The complaint accuses the owner of the property, the U.S.A. Free Methodist Church, of operating a radio station at illegal output levels. Now, here's the thing, guys. The church's owner is not the present occupier of the church. The church has been empty for a while, but digging further into it, if you own a property and somebody illegally transmits from that property, the owner of the property can be held liable, up to like $2 million fines. Nate says pirates are the coolest stuff to find, usually below 7 megahertz. Love it. A good buddy of mine, he may or may not be listening to this episode, but Ed Shaw, he has been into radio for a long time. He's actually one of the guys that kind of I look up to for doing this sort of thing. And if I remember correctly, he was involved in pirate radio in his college days. I'm pretty sure, because he used to talk about it quite a bit. So anyway, Ed, if you're out there, shouting out to you, brother. I always appreciate you. He's the one who gave me the nickname Conan the Librarian when I worked at a library in high school. So the situation is interesting as churches, and this is kind of cool. So if anybody ever wants to know, churches generally are allowed to operate under the low power FM regulation, allowing for non-commercial use within a service range of 3.5 miles. I learned something new today. The FCC's rules create exceptions for certainly extremely low-powered devices, but our agents have determined that those exceptions do not apply in this situation. While the U.S.A. Free Methodist Church is listed on the complaint, the church is no longer operational. As an official at the church that operates the weekly service in the same building, when reached for comment, said, "Here, this is where it gets a little hairy. The church building supports religious services for multiple churches who rent out the space." The official would not give his name, but said that another church was operating a radio station, but the landlord had spoken to the offending church and had gotten them to stop. So you have a church that shut down, but they're renting it out to other congregations. A different congregation took it upon themselves to use the existing radio transmitting gear in there. And it looks like either they didn't know what they were doing or they cranked the hell out of it, caught the attention of the FCC because this is their important thing right now, and almost got a huge fine for it. Looks like they fixed it. But if that's not a good example of not staying below the radar, the next one's going to be even better for you. Elsewhere in the state, a man who actively promotes his radio efforts online could soon face a significant fine. Thomas Barnes, someone who has been active in the pirate radio scene since the early 90s, is facing an $80,000 fine for broadcasting on 100.5. Now, in La Grande, Oregon, here is the thing. I don't know about you guys. Every town I've ever lived in has had a radio station on 100.5. It is one of the most common FM stations I've ever seen. It just rolls off the tongue. So why the hell is this? I think he's kind of, flaunting it, trying to, fight or have his day in court, right? So he is intentionally doing this. In 2018, he was served a notice that said, "Hey, guess what? You're in violation. You're going to get a fine." But he ignored multiple complaints. Never a good idea when you're dealing with the government, folks. As much as we may or may not, no, we don't love them. But the worst thing you ever want to do is get put on their radar, because once you're on there, you ain't getting off. Barnes first received it. He ignored it. Last March, they enforced it some more. They removed 2 transmitters from Barnes' property. Barnes then posted to Facebook a few days later, stating that he had moved to another spot on the dial. Barnes continued to disregard their complaints. He's been warned multiple times. The FCC's efforts to fight but his conduct was illegal. But he nonetheless chose to continue to operate. Well, you know what? Whatever. You want to fight? You want to fight. Pick your battles. But so he is facing up to an $80,000 fine. Now, this is his hill he wants to die on. It's obviously important to him. I just think there's probably other ways to go about it. So, in case you're wondering, because the government in their infinite wisdom, here's the final paragraph that you guys hopefully will appreciate, because this is how they do things. The FCC's efforts to fight pirate radio stations have picked up in recent years as a result of the 2020 passage, are you ready for this, of the Pirate Act. Only the government, I know I love my alliterations and that sort of thing, but this is just so good. It's you got to hear it. The Preventing Illegal Radio Abuse Through Enforcement, the Pirate Act. Oh, dear God. Which gives the commission the ability to levy fines of up to $2 million against pirate broadcasters, while giving the commission the ability to go after property owners and landowners as part of its enforcement efforts. Oh, I hate that. Overreach, right? But anyway, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, you think the airwaves should be open or closed, I don't care what you agree with. What I'm getting at this point is the fact that you need to be a gray man when it comes to this shit. Because like I said, you get put on a list, you ain't coming off a list, right? Nate says, well, that explains why we are now paying for a license in the States, first time ever. Sure, because they give them, let's see what the Preventing Illegal Radio Abuse Through Enforcement Act. Just a whole bunch of money. They won't say how much they give probably, but yeah, so there you go. I thought that one was fun. I always try to find one that ties in with radio and communications and stuff because it, I don't know, just makes me giggle. It's a lot of fun, like the AM radio one with the electric vehicles. Always something good there. But this one was interesting. So if you are going to illegally broadcast, try to stay, especially if you can, stay within that kind of church range. There's a guy I worked with at Home Hardware years ago, used to work for the radio, was a techie guy with that kind of stuff. And he had an old church broadcaster that he set up in his living room, and he would broadcast on the FM dial, whatever, old country music and old gospel music. And nope, it never bothered anybody because you could only pick it up for a mile or two in either direction. But Robin says, those of us with online hey, that's actually not a bad idea. So here, I read it before I read it out loud. Robin says those of us with online ordinations could open our own churches and build that low-powered radio network. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. See, working within the system, not, you have to. That's the whole idea behind it. When, how does it, constraints on the system mean that your solution has to be all the more eloquent? And you came up with a great idea there, Robin. Hey, Nate says probably to line somebody's pockets. Renegade says someone in government was super proud of that acronym. Oh, I know they were. So somebody somewhere gets to write the next acronym because they came up with this one. So, and they probably wrote it in crayons, but anyway, that's another one. And Rachel says, do we have to take a shot now? Well, we did kind of talk about ham. Oh, there, I said it. So yeah. And Chris Dixon says the government should sell weed. I bet that would be lucrative for them. Don't get me started, but just Google it. It's really funny. The Canadian government legalizes weed. They go in the business of weed, and then they realize how to lose their fucking shirts selling weed. I mean, traditionally, the only way you lost money as a drug dealer is if you imbibed of their own product. The government's not even doing that, and they still can't make money. So, that's the FUGOV Act. That is really, really good. Yeah, pump up the volume. Oh, boy. Yeah, so anyway, Rachel says, is one of us not ordained online? I'm not. I never even went through the ordination process. I could have, but I never did. So Illinois made $100 million last year, and Martinson says they'll fuck up anything. Yeah, they will. And Robin says, every now and then I come up with a good idea. I know. Yeah, no, you know what I was going to say is that even a broken clock is right twice a day. But Robin, you're right way more than twice a day. I think that's a great idea. And Renegade's right. Use their system to fuck them right in the loopholes. Oh my God. So I read that out loud before I read it in my head, but it sounded less offensive than, anyway, no, it was funny. So yeah, I appreciate it. And it's right. That's exactly what we do. Work within the system, because if you want to prosper, I mean, you work on the gray level, on the gray areas and the fringes, but you got to work within their system to make their money, right? Yeah, that's right. Darkwing Dave. I was just about to say that. Jack says state jujitsu. Absolutely. Just figure it out. You know, any grant that's out there, we go after it for the daycare, because why not? Always want to get our stolen tax dollars back, every penny we can, because it's there. Go and grab it. Renegade Butcher, Robin says, is the high priest of the Church of Potty Mouth. And Renegade says only the government could fuck up selling weed. Absolutely. That right there is, shorten that up a little bit, would have made an absolute perfect patch. Yeah, that's a good one. Only the government could do exactly that. So yeah. Well, I don't know about you guys. I think I'm going to call it an evening and go hang out with my beautiful wife for a half hour, an hour. I'm going to finish my review videos tomorrow. I got 3 to knock out. And then all I've got left for content is to just polish my presentation for LFTN. We've got 4 more days and then we're heading on the road. I cannot wait. I do tend to, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great to get out and see some people. Brian and Corey were down to check out my land today, which is so exciting. They sent me some pretty cool pictures. I'm really excited about that, but I'm more excited about seeing those guys in real life. I'm actually excited about Becky and Corey getting to meet as well. That'll be really cool because, yeah, it'll be really good. But going to see, who else am I going to see? Carrie Brown for sure. And then a lot of, as Becky and I call it, our people at LFTN. It's going to be awesome. Sean Mills will be there. Eric will be there. John Pugliano. I don't know if Patrick Werman will be there or not, but either way, it's going to be a great time. I know last year John Willis showed up for a couple hours to do a presentation. I don't know if he'll be there this time or not. We'll see. But either way, it's going to be a great time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I love Saturday nights because I am, I love being able to throw a bunch of different things together, right? So there it is. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's going to be great. So tomorrow night, I'm 95% sure I have Thesia on the show. She confirmed she's supposed to be on here, so I think she will be. I'd got to double check with her tomorrow night, but I'm excited. She's a great gal. I was going to call her a great old gal. That's mean. I didn't mean it like that because she's not. But the reason is that her topic tomorrow night is prepping for prepping for seniors or prepping for elderly. And yeah, she's not elderly, but she wants to talk about it. So anyway, I love Thesia. She's a great speaker. Her go-getting attitude is infectious, and she just always does it. So with that, guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.